Hello, regular listeners will know that we have launched the PoliticsJOE Patreon. There's going to be exclusive content, Q&As, live streams, all the good stuff, and you can get 90% off your first month now by going to the PoliticsJOE Patreon and using the code POD. That's the PoliticsJOE Patreon, code POD, for 90% off your first month as a subscriber. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Love podcasts, hate nonsense. The PoliticsJOE Podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Is Sean back there?
No, he's not. That's why the reaction's so
That sounds like
positive.
Sean.
No.
No, he's not. He's in the office. I left him there. How are we?
What's he up to?
Turning his computer on.
That's cute. I hope he's entered his password.
Logging in to the mainframe for another day at the content coalface.
Absolutely.
He's got the worst password I've ever seen in my life.
Should we tell everyone what it is?
It's
No.
just basically
How can
like,
the king of OPSEC suggest that?
do you know when you go on like Google and it suggests like the most insane password? It's like suggested password, and you're like, well, that sounds great. Where?
No.
How am I going to remember that? That's
no.
basically what he's got.
I've forgotten the name for it, where you replace letters with,
Alphanumeric.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it does spell out words.
It does, but it doesn't spell the word correctly.
No. So an added layer of complexity
Yeah.
for the hackers who wish to access.
Trust me, you're never getting to Sean's computer unless I tell you exactly what it is.
Yeah. I like when you didn't used to know the password and like you'd be like, do you know it? And I'd be like, I do, but only from like, I need to attempt it 20 times and then I can do it.
Only if you're locked in.
Yeah.
It's like muscle memory for you.
If I'm on a day like this morning where I'm a bit off, there's no chance.
It's hot.
It is hot.
Real hot.
It's really hot.
I had to rescue a dehydrated sparrow yesterday.
So
Did you?
I did.
Like Snow White?
Really?
Yep. Made
What did
it.
you do? Kiss it?
Well,
How
yes,
dehydrated more was it?
naturally I kissed it, and then I started to care for it.
Well, I got to get something from this interaction.
Nice to meet you. I made him a little nest out of a Peroni box. Gave him some water and some birdseed, and then put him on a window shelf off the floor outside. So window ledge outside, and then I went to go check on him this morning. He was sleeping.
Was he dead?
No, he tucked his head under his wing.
Oh,
Was asleep.
that is delightful.
So,
Definitely.
well, I mean, it's tricky because I had to manhandle him to put him in the box. I don't know whether it's a male or female sparrow. I don't know how one checks, but you know, I'm projecting a gender onto him.
Did you get consent?
No, extreme lack of consent.
Okay.
He was resisting,
Yeah,
but didn't have the energy to get away.
You're going to like this.
Should you not have contacted the RSPB?
I just thought for a sparrow, it's a bit much.
It's a bird. That's exactly what it's for.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, the sparrow's sick, is it? Oh, shit. I'm sure the other 10 million will make up for it.
I've got a really,
It's all birds. It's not just most.
I've got the most perfect anecdote for this.
Yeah.
Sean and I were at a protest down in Kent and we were covering it. It was like a sit-in situation or whatever. So we'd filmed it. We were about to leave. And, well, actually, they're soon to be prescribed. Anyway, that gave it away.
I'm going to be ambiguous about this.
It's Al Qaeda. Anyway,
You're at a Bob Vylan concert.
so as we're leaving and we're in like a rented car or whatever, they're like, can you take this pigeon? We found a nearby vet. Please, can you take this pigeon to the vet? And I said, sorry. And she's got a damaged wing. And I was like, that sounds really awful. Have you called the vet? Because I can't just turn up there and say, there's a pigeon in this box. Anyway, so she's like, it'll be fine. Just take it. And I'm like, okay, I did. The pigeon gets into the car. And it's like kamikaze. I'm trying to drive this car like a really fast road in Kent. And it's like fucking everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, why is there a bird in my car?
That's so good.
I would have been extreme wind down the windows energy in that moment. And let the pigeon deal with
No, we
like
took it.
60-mile-an-hour lorries on the A2.
We took it. We get to the vet. I ring the emergency doorbell. I'm like, I've got a pigeon. She looks at me. She's like, a pigeon. Yeah.
You know the criticism of like leftist groups that they start off being one sort of group and they have to encompass all sorts of like, not only are you pro-Palestine, you're anti-climate change and pro-trans liberation, you're also animal rights activists as well.
Absolutely.
So they were obliged to become the RSPB for a bit.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally humiliating. They basically told me like, what would we do here? And I was like, it's hard to say.
Well, that's
Vets!
well, no. I think
do here?
it implied is like, we care for pets, and so we will extract thousands of pounds out of you based on your love for the domesticated animal that you have. This is a wild bird that if you hadn't found it, a house cat would have massacred. And that was why I was loath, because I was out watering the garden, and then I heard some rustling and looked to see what it was, and he was just like down there, like
Yeah. But
looking at me.
am I naive? But is that not the RSPB's job?
To look after a sparrow.
Injured sparrow, they can save it. I swear to God, that's like the point of it.
I think a sparrow is quite an important bird in the pecking order. Is it not?
No,
Very
that was good. I thought the RSPB's job was to be like an advocacy group for.
What's
for
more
like
advocacy than that?
Well, it's not like.
Well, it's like
they're not first responders.
It's like Medicine Sans Frontières. Someone's broken their leg in a war zone, and they're like, no, we're just getting more of a campaign group.
I think
Do you know what this reminds me of? Oh my God, how have I forgotten about this? A very junior AP once at my last job booked. What's that group that's for the blind? It's got a very similar. Or they
Royal
booked,
Society for the Blind RSP.
yeah, or they booked the RSPB for a blind segment. It was like one or the other, something like that. And it was a guest who was completely in the wrong.
That's
Right. That's good stuff. So I'll update you. I'll let you know how the Sparrow gets on.
I do like the idea of you and Sean going to an Al Qaeda protest in Kent. That really tickled me.
Yeah. So can we get a live cam, do you think, on the Sparrow?
I'll if he's still there, I'm hoping the promise to feed and water him, let him sleep, get some rest, and then hopefully he would fly out of the box into a nearby tree.
I think he might need some more intensive care than you putting him in a box.
No,
outside.
It's open. It's ventilated. It's got. I put some kitchen towel in there. You could say I feathered his nest.
So what you've got to do now is,
wipe his arse.
to cut the welfare bill, you're going to have to slowly take away everything that you've provided for him, because
Too
otherwise
many
he's going to get
sunflowers,
used to
dude.
it.
You've
and
only
he's
scored
gonna-
a 2 on your PIP form, I'm afraid, Mr. Sparrow. you just have severe dehydration.
Can you do up your trousers, Mr. Sparrow?
Well, yeah, couldn't get himself ready. I had to do that. But you're concerned because, when you're handling them, that is obviously the most traumatic and terrifying thing for them that has ever happened. So you want to be very light touch. And then I started worrying about bird flu, which I looked up. Is you contract by handling sick birds. So,
Well,
imagine that, patient zero, new pandemic.
and you're here with us.
Do you think that that
Yeah,
Sparrow
you're
might
patient 1 and 2.
that might be why it was ill?
So apparently the symptoms are a swollen head and closed and runny eyes.
I've had it for years.
Yeah. And
I put your helmet on the other day.
What, for a laugh?
yeah.
I don't know why it was rocking about. Honestly,
Yeah, it's big.
you've got such a big brain.
Huge brain, little body,
Are we?
enormous head.
Are we?
Teeny
Peace.
I'm mostly peace. We all know it.
Ed's dating profile. Tiny body, big old cock. That's me. Call me Ed Campbell.
I've got like a big arse. Ava knows.
No.
Ava knows.
No,
this.
I've never.
There's a shot of me in a wetsuit in a video.
Oh yeah,
and
no,
it is like a shelf, to be fair.
That made me cry.
yeah. No, we had
It was like a cover of Sports Illustrated.
some fun times. Yeah, you did have a dumper truck in that. Yeah,
But my cousin, I'm gonna plug my cousin's Fringe show. My cousin Daniel McKeown is going to be at the Edinburgh Fringe. Very funny comedian. He put like some promo photos up, and the show's called Boy Boss. And it's him in kind of like big 80s suits, whatever. There's one shot of him just wearing a shirt and tie and like women's gym shorts, and he's kind of facing the camera. And I was like, that's genetic. This thing.
He's got the
It's got a big old dumper on him.
He's got the Campbell ass. Are we excited to do Glastonbury discourse?
Yes. Obviously, we're going to start with Charlie XX lip syncing.
Naturally.
Did she?
That was a joke. I think kind of she did. I was watching it.
Auto tune. What do you need?
No, it was like her singing, and she's
like dancing.
Her mouth
without-
wasn't moving.
The mic's not near.
And she was just like,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And that was a lot of it, to be fair.
Yeah.
I find her incredibly attractive. I think she's just really got something about her.
I don't know if I can have this discourse.
You think all women are beautiful?
Well, naturally, of course. All women are beautiful.
Yes. Sparrow's
I think
beautiful.
she's very ethereal.
Yeah.
Right. We may cut this out, but we might not. I propose a motion to the House that in a lineup of Sabrina Carpenter, Dua Lipa, Charlie XCX, that there is a distinguishing factor between Charlie XCX, Dua Lipa, and Sabrina Carpenter, all of whom are conventionally attractive women, right?
Yeah.
That's how I like to be complimented.
Normal.
You are very conventional. But I believe Dua Lipa and Charlie XCX to be in possession of a otherwise ephemeral quality, which I can only describe as le sex.
Right.
They have sauce. And I feel like Sabrina Carpenter it's almost like curated. It's almost like a KPMG consultant has come in and created her in a lab to be like, if we put sex appeal on the front of a record how do we do it? And you create Sabrina Carpenter. It's intangible. I can't quite come down to what it is, but I believe that Charlie XCX it's energy. Do you know? It's aura. Aura is what they would call it.
I wonder if they're both a fair bit older than Sabrina Carpenter as well. I actually wonder if it's like experience. Is that insane to say?
No.
But
None of her albums hit though, did they? Sabrina suddenly just went with the last album.
Has she done that many before?
No.
Yeah.
Has she?
Yeah.
Really?
She's got like 8.
Oh, she had like Disney albums and stuff, didn't she?
No, she's got loads of stuff, honestly.
Really?
It would actually shock you. But she only really banged with Short and Sweet.
Yeah.
You can say something about Charlie XCX before Brat, though, can you?
No.
Yes, she can.
No, you could.
She went absolutely stratospheric.
She
with
went
that.
stratospheric. Yeah, but like people.
I think she was
pretty big.
She was big and cool, but she wasn't mainstream, I don't think.
No, she's not the mainstream. But she wasn't.
No, like Boom Clap was pretty big.
Yeah, that was big.
And I Don't Care song was pretty big, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The crash the car into a bridge one.
Is that her?
And
Yeah.
Celia Banks, a gay Celia. Oh,
No.
Fancy the Gay Celia, and I Don't Care is also her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Shall we move in?
Yeah, Fancy. That was a pretty big song, wasn't it?
That was a good song.
It
Iggy
was.
Azalea was mental. Do you remember that?
Yeah, she was insane.
What was that about?
We were all off for a nut in 2014. It was the Commonwealth Games. We were all very excited.
Look, I've rolled my sleeves up and I'm ready for a hard day's podcasting, being consistent on free speech. And let me tell you how excited I am.
So annoying.
How excited I am to hear your guys' takes
Oh.
about this.
Okay.
Have any of you? How much Glastonbury have you watched?
I watched the film 1975.
Did you?
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of it this weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
I only seen what's been thrust upon me.
I sat down and chose to watch Matty Healy thrusting. It was good stuff.
I liked Denise Welsh crying at the end of that. That was
That's
lovely.
nice. That's sweet.
And of course, Charlie XCX's boyfriend, the
Yes.
drummer of the
Yeah, of
1975
course. Yeah.
Fiance.
fiance.
And Wolf Alice yesterday. It was good. I watched that.
Wolf Alice is sick.
Wolf Alice were great.
And what's
fan
his
of Wolf Alice.
bassist? Is it the bassist or I only know one of them? I sat next to him at a wedding last year.
Really?
It was very nice.
Good chat.
Yeah, it was very good fun. And their producer, who was a lot more fun.
Oh,
Just if we're going to ranking,
take that, bassist.
Yeah.
You suck. Okay, so then, Ava, what clips have you had thrust upon you from Glastonbury?
Well, Bob Vylan, I think, is the main one that's been thrust upon me.
I can't move for seeing Bob Vylan.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's everywhere.
I hadn't really heard of them before this
No.
weekend, I must be honest.
Neither had I.
If you said Bob Vylan, I bet you've misspoken. It's Bob Dylan.
Especially Bob Vylan.
Wow.
I think you could say the same thing about Kneecap.
I knew who Kneecap were.
No, sorry, not you specifically. I think a lot more people have found out about Kneecap over the course of, let's say, the last 6 months,
Yes. Yeah.
and that perhaps there is a consideration here for people who wish to minimise the influence of people like Bob Vylan and Kneecap. That maybe if they just let them do their punk, hip hop, whatever they want to make over here, and if you I think Kneecap, there was more hype about Kneecap than any of the headliners.
Yes.
Yeah,
But to be fair, there was a pretty dire list of headliners.
I think they've fallen off big time.
Who?
The
Glastonbury.
Glastonbury headliners, yeah.
Neil Young. Did
Look.
you how few people were there?
Yeah, same with SZA last year.
Yeah.
And Olivia Rodrigo. Yeah, very small crowds. by comparison.
It's a very odd choice, isn't it? Because SZA is great, but why is she not in one of the small tents? Because that's where you want to really experience her. Do you know what I mean?
Seemingly last year, they kind of backed themselves into a corner by saying they were going to have 2 female headliners, and then someone pulled out,
Taylor Swift, wasn't it?
or
Oh no, that was pre-COVID.
or Madonna, or whoever it was. But it was like, and then
was doing
SZA
it-
was like the 11th person asked.
It was pre-COVID, wasn't it? Because she was doing that run at British Summertime as well, and then she was going to do the surprise at Glastonbury, and then all of it was cancelled.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever got my money back for that British Summertime, by the way.
Well, if you're listening,
Yeah.
Hyde Park, you're on notice.
But
Will
you know what?
Bobby
I'm
V
just
be
happy
doing,
to contribute to Taylor Swift's War Machine.
Will Bobby V be doing a BST next year, do you think?
Andrea Bocelli, and then Bob Vylan.
Sponsored by Amex.
Yes.
For anyone who's not as chronically online as us, should we do a rundown of where we're up to so far?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll read through the very aptly assembled notes by Ben, and then we'll get into it. So, rap duo Bob Vylan, comprised of the Bobs, that's vocalist and guitarist Bobby Vylan and drummer Bobby Vylan, named so for privacy, or also possibly because one of them's first name is Pascal, and that's not very punk, I guess, caused great upset at Glastonbury on Saturday. Bobby so one is Bobby with a Y, and one is Bobby IE.
Yep.
So Bobby with a Y, that's the vocalist guitarist, led chants of free Palestine and death to the IDF. Avon and Somerset Police said video evidence will be assessed by officers to determine whether any offences may have been committed that would require a criminal investigation. I saw, by the way, also RTE reporting that it's not just Bobby Vylan who's under investigation, that Kneecap are also under investigation as well.
I think because they said there was going to cause a riot outside their trial.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did say that. I in a world where we spend a lot of time discussing what counts as inciting a riot,
Right.
when you say let's have a riot outside the court, it seems pretty clear cut. The BBC branded Bobby Vylan's performance deeply offensive and will not make it available on demand. They did, however, broadcast the entire set on iPlayer. This is the funny part, is like Bobby Vylan was on before Kneecap, right, in the billing. So not only do I think he had a far bigger crowd than he would have otherwise gotten, because people were getting there so that they would make it. They had to close the Westholt stage because it was full. So like at capacity, 30,000 people there for Kneecap. And so as a result, Bobby Vylan had a ginormous crowd. But it's also quite funny that the BBC were like, we can't live stream Kneecap. We'll watch it and then we'll put it up. If we have to edit anything, we can edit anything. And then these guys come on beforehand, and whoever the director is, was with his head in his hands,
Flicking through the BBC handbook.
what the fuck have I done?
Desperate for permission.
What have we done? You do wonder why they didn't cut the feed after that chant happened. It has to be said.
Here he is.
I mean, I think it's interesting. I'm surprised at that take, Ollie.
I'm surprised at that take, Ollie.
Okay. Why?
I thought you were an advocate of free speech.
I am.
Okay.
Do you think that was I'm not trying to get you. Do you think that's an offensive thing to say?
It's not to my taste.
Right.
I don't think it's criminal.
Yeah.
I think I would struggle to see, however, how that fits within the BBC's editorial guidelines. And I would wonder, the reason I'm saying I'm surprised they didn't cut the feed is that I would have expected remarks like that. Well, no, I know, looking at the remarks that the BBC has since made about it, that they view this as grossly offensive
Right.
and inappropriate. And so it begs the question, well, why didn't you cut the feeds then? If you think that to be the case.
Yeah, I guess, but at no point is it suggested that anyone performing at Glastonbury is a spokesperson of the BBC.
Yes, indeed, or indeed Glastonbury Festival for that matter. Look, I'll rattle through this because I feel like we're getting into territory about talking about it. So the BBC branded the performance deeply offensive, not make it available on demand. They did, however, broadcast the entire set on iPlayer, but did so with a warning about very strong and discriminatory language. In a statement posted on Instagram, the Glastonbury Festival and organiser Emily Evis said, as a festival, we stand against all forms of war and terrorism. However, we are appalled by the statements made from the Westholt stage by Bob Vylan yesterday. Their chants very much crossed the line, and we are urgently reminding everyone involved in the production of the festival that there is no place at Glastonbury for anti-Semitism, hate speech, or incitement to violence. Before the festival, founder Michael Evis said that people who didn't like its politics could go somewhere else. And then obviously a lot on the broadcast round yesterday about this. West Streeting, I thought maybe we'll come to West Streeting's remarks and discussion of this at a later point. But let's just talk about death to the IDF as a chant first of all, and whether or not you think that counts, that's sort of valid free speech, and the way that it's being spoken about so far, i.e. anti-Semitic, hate speech, incitement to violence, as is implied in that statement from Emily Evis. Do you think those three descriptors apply to that chant?
I think it's grossly unfair to suggest that the performer and the audience members were anti-Semitic. I think that we have to do disclaimers because people don't accept nuance and they're going to like tread over every single word I say. Obviously, you should not be calling for someone's death. That is incitement to violence, obviously. But the IDF are an army. You know, they're not civilians. They're not Israeli civilians, and they're not.
It's an organisation.
This conflation between the IDF and Jewish people, I just think that is anti-Semitic, actually.
Yeah. To basically imply if you're criticising the IDF, you're criticising Jews and Judaism.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would actually argue that was probably the more anti-Semitic point. So, you know, I just think that this sort of making performers the pariahs of, you know, political discourse, expecting some kind of nuance out of a performer.
Punk band.
A punk band who does not do nuances of conflict day in, day out. I just think that we sort of lost the plot. Like, if that was a politician that said that, I would understand the real outcry.
Well, exactly. And I think there's obviously been huge amounts of spilled ink over these comments. And I think you can look to the remarks of a politician like Bezalel Smotrich, who not a couple of weeks ago is on the record, direct quote marks, wanting to destroy Gaza. That's a quote, destroy, and quote, cleanse, end quote, it of Palestinians. So if you're losing your rag about death to the IDF, and you do not bring the same energy to a minister of the Israeli government, this isn't a punk band, this isn't a performer, this isn't someone on stage at a festival in front of at most 30,000 people. So it's someone with their hands on the levers of power. And if you're not as provoked and upset about those types of comments, then you're showing your ass when you get upset.
But the minister didn't call for the death of the IDF, Ollie.
Yeah,
he just said Palestinians.
Yes, sorry, I've put a foot out of line there.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Thank you for pulling me up on that.
What I think is quite revealing is the crackdown on non-violent protest.
Yeah.
And like there is a set of parameters that someone is dictating. There's like a sort of like, not to sound especially conspiratorial, but like an establishment view of what is accepted protest.
Yeah.
You have to be absolutely, completely sanitized. It has to be completely sanitary. And if you broach one of these incredibly particular parameters unwittingly, deliberately, you are going to have the full book thrown at you. Like what could Bobby Vylan have said that would have been acceptable? What about I hate the IDF? I think that probably still would have prompted the same reaction. I don't like the IDF. The IDF should go home. That would probably prompt the exact same reaction and the exact same hand wringing from all these commentators.
There's so much in what you said then that I want to talk about, because I'll start with that last bit. I hate the IDF or down with the IDF. I think there's something really interesting about each of the times we've recently spoken about this, which is, in this case, death to the IDF. In a previous case by Kneecap, it's up Hezbollah. And in the instance of the Connolly tweets talking about in the context of race riots, burning down the hotels. And I think there's a really important distinction between, and this is, I guess, where a judge comes in, interpreting those statements as literal or figurative. Because when Kneecap, who were after Bob Vylan, performed and were chanting "fuck Keir Starmer," they weren't saying and the 30,000 people who were also chanting along weren't saying, "I want to fuck Keir Starmer." It's a statement of opposition. And so do you interpret it literally? Do you think he's literally saying death, the destruction of, the death of every single soldier within? Or do you take it as a statement of opposition in the same way, burn down the hotels, opposition to immigration, up Hezbollah, opposition to the state of Israel. Do you interpret it literally or figuratively? I think is a really important point of distinction.
I think it's also I know we keep talking about the Lucy Connolly thing, and I think it is a different context. In that, I think this would be different if there had been, for some reason, Bob Vylan were performing, and there were like IDF soldiers being held hostage, and then they shout death to the IDF. That's quite a different context. And in the Lucy Connolly case, there were people who had the propensity or the capability to burn down mosques, and they wanted to. And I do think that is an important distinction there.
In the context of a riot compared to
A concert.
Yeah. You know, the media, newspaper columnists and journalists of the right-wing persuasion were chomping at the bit for Glastonbury this year.
Yeah.
It's just fodder to them because it's, oh, what a shock. Many of the metropoles who are under 40 are all going to a field in Somerset. What do you think is going to... Obviously, it's going to have a rather pro-Palestinian persuasion. Do you know what I mean? This is a shock. If you're an editor, this is like, oh, we're selling newspapers, boys. But I wanted to talk about the Daily Mail because this is... sorry, that's what I was rudely Googling while you were talking there.
That's right.
But so... The Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, has said the corporation, BBC, appears to have broken the law by transmitting a punk duo's calls for death of Israeli soldiers. I just want to pick that apart a little bit. Truly, I don't actually know what law he's talking about. They would have live defence on that. They put a notice, which, I mean, they might have breached their Ofcom licence. That's not broken the law. Why does the Shadow Home Secretary continue to just spout such guff? Honestly, all the time. I was cycling to work today and I was thinking about how irritated I am about the sort of how boring discourse is at the moment. Something happens, the Shadow Home Secretary gets really worked up about it, or you have Robert Jenrick getting worked up about it, or maybe Suella Braverman writes about it in the Telegraph. None of it ever makes any sense. None of it ever makes any difference. It's so...
Yeah.
Boring.
But they just raise it like...
I was going to say, fucking boring.
The Conservative Party are behaving as if we're about to lurch into like moral crisis at every point. Like every single thing prompts such a hysterical reaction.
That's exactly it. It's total hysteria. Total hysteria. It's a concert.
Do you know what Robert Jenrick did at the weekend?
What did he do?
He marched into my flat and turned off the telly when I was watching Bob Vylan.
Yeah. He had another video out on Friday, I think.
Robert Jenrick with a video crew at the gates of Glastonbury demanding to be let in so that he could confront Bob Vylan and challenge him to a debate.
He was making a YouTube video where he tries to sneak in.
The Telegraph nearly broke its back trying to put out a headline on Bob Vylan. There was some contortion. They were like, oh, well, what about Lucy Connolly? But also, we shouldn't really arrest this Bob Vylan guy because we should free Lucy Connolly. But maybe we should free Lucy Connolly and also arrest Bob Vylan. Like, I was reading the story last night and I was like, this is like some Cirque du Soleil contortion here. And then the absolute ball, I saw some people like tweeting being like, the Telegraph have been very good on free speech. It was like, watch them renege. You're not going to have one of their main columnists who has followed the Lucy Connolly story to to each phase of it, each step of it. You're not going to have her writing a column calling for free Bob Vylan.
But this is the thing, isn't it? It's like so many times. I think these free speech debates just show people they care deeply about free speech when the people that they agree with are coming under attack, and they think it's fair and justified when people that they don't agree with, whatever it is, getting locked up, cancelled, being prescribed as fucking terrorist groups, whatever you want to talk about. It's like, I really do feel like you have to be principled on it. And if you want, like, that is why you said they're contorting themselves into such funny shapes to be able to talk about it, because their thinking doesn't have any consistency to it. It's just, we believe that we actually, we agree with the sentiment of what Lucy Connolly tweeted, because we do think that immigration has gone too far in this country, rather than, she should have a right to be offensive, and so should Kneecap, so should Bob Vylan, whatever. Yeah.
I still do think the sentence was absolutely insane for Lucy Connolly.
Yeah, it was. It's ridiculous.
But she didn't. But she could have burnt down an asylum hotel. It could have led to it. It could have.
And she pled guilty.
And this is like,
God, whichever lawyer advised her to do that. Whoops.
and this is Ed's point about sort of like the creeping authoritarianism in Britain, which is a trend that started under the Conservatives, when we're literally talking about acceptable levels of sort of nuisance noise at protests and criminalising them. There's been some talk of banning protest around certain buildings, political buildings. I think that was in a review. What's the guy's name? Former Labour frontbencher,
Woodcock.
Yes, Jonathan Woodcock. Yeah. Something like that.
Woodburn.
He's a lord now.
Yes.
And he's been consulting on I think they called it like security and protest or something. And some of the recommendations in it are like, from the reporting I've seen, incredibly draconian. So for example, banning protest outside political buildings. So outside the Houses of Parliament, where the vast majority of protests happen, for example, or outside a council. So so if I wish to voice my displeasure politically, where would be the location of which
excuse me, Mr. Policeman.
You stood in like Surbiton, demanding action from the government.
But even Mark Rowley was sort of on that train of thought, really, when he was talking about the Palestine Action protest that took place last week. Oh shit, the bed. It's June 30th. We're going to have to edit the fuck out of this now.
Oh, is it from today?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, look, and there you go. So we want to talk about like a chilling of free speech. You're prescribing a group like Palestine Action means that if, for example, a journalist wanted to say that they felt that the minor criminal damage conducted by Palestine Action in the name of stopping a major moral catastrophe like a prolific war, and they thought that was a morally justifiable thing to do, they can't say that anymore. Mm-hmm. You could be arrested if that was your way of thinking and you decided you wanted to say that publicly. That's voicing your support for a prescribed terrorist organization. Mm-hmm. And so that is how you end up, like you were saying, this chilling of free speech, this chilling of the right to protest, and the increasingly authoritarian tendencies of political parties of all stripes. And it's like a very egregious attack on civil liberties that a lot of people like to say they hold dear to themselves, but don't actually make much of an attempt to defend.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also important to remember for everybody that the IDF are an army, and it's widely considered that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza, and the IDF are the tool to accomplish that. So stating your opposition to that is surely just a widely held opinion at this point. And like polling does suggest that the overwhelming majority of people in this country are against Israel's action in Gaza. So it's actually not remotely controversial. I
like the idea that like a soldier in a war with with people trying to kill him every day,
listening to his favorite band.
Yeah. I've got a tea break. Oh, let me stick the BBC on and just check in on Glastonbury. God, it would be nice to be there. Oh my God! What? Disgusting!
Are you sure? People want us dead.
I don't really understand why it's any different to criticising the British or the American armies.
Yeah. Well, famously, I mean, the Iranians love a death to the West, don't they? They love a death to the West chant. The Israeli...
Not on the BBC, Ollie.
No, God, you have some standards, Ol.
Broadcasting the Ayatollah for Palestine.
Silencing the crowd as they chant death to the West, but burn an American flag and broadcast that to everyone.
What's the like Iranian version of Kneecap? Maybe they shouldn't put that on the BBC.
And, settlers in the West Bank, death to the Arabs, pretty common chant there as well. Like it is a it's not to excuse either of them or say that like I support any of those statements, but it's not like outside the realms of political protest chants.
Imagine during like Iraq and Afghanistan, British soldiers had some choice things to say about the Taliban.
Yes, I'd expect so.
Can you please watch your language?
Okay. Excuse me.
Tony Blair landing in Bagram to tone police the paras.
No
Yeah.
Islamophobia here, actually. It's the 21st century, lads.
Can't be doing that, mate. Have a pint of Madrid.
Take the knee.
Taking the knee
Kick that out.
before invading Ramallah.
Another point, really, isn't it? You do have to think about the Mail and the sort of. Do you remember the front page where Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner are taking the knee?
Oh,
Yeah.
what did they say?
And they're like, "Is this chump going to be prime minister? Look at him,
Yes. Yes, he
begging
is.
the knee for racism." And now the BBC are like, "Excuse me, Bob Vylan, racismo."
So they
Free speech warriors, the Daily Mail. I don't know how on earth I mean, it's proper shape shifting, isn't it?
big time. So the BBC broadcast them live. We'll move things on a little bit. Shall we talk a bit about Kneecap, or if you have any more
Yeah.
Bob Vylan thoughts?
I don't really care to talk about Kneecap because I think that we'll come back to it. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that. I think that Kneecap are the too obvious of a story of Glastonbury, right? People were waiting and watching.
Yeah, and so they caught some of Bob Vylan. And the thing I would just say as well, I watched Kneecap's set because it wasn't broadcast live.
From Helen in Dorset. Is that how you watched it?
No, I watched it on iPlayer.
Oh, okay.
But they, some of it was censored. Some of it was,
Really?
yeah, the sound was taken off it. I don't know what it was. You know that line about Arlene Foster doing coke off a plate?
Yes.
They censored that.
Well, it was around that bar, and I got to be honest, I wasn't paying like full attention to it because obviously it then goes quiet. So then you look up and you realise. But I heard Foster, and then it goes quiet, and so my first thought actually was that he was ad-libbing something,
Right.
and that they'd silenced that.
Okay.
But otherwise,
There's jokes about Jeffrey as well, isn't there, in that song?
there's jokes about
A lot of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that like they censored that, and like Matty Healy's like, "Fucking in the car doing heroin with Arlene Foster's here too."
Yeah. But I guess Matty Healy isn't saying anything about like Palestine, is he?
Well, exactly,
No, famously not.
yeah. I just
Did they play Love It If We Made It?
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't do a Palestine flag at the back.
He did he did a thing where he said, "We've consciously decided not to say anything about politics. We want our legacy to be one of love and friendship." This
No.
conscious
Can I just
decision.
say that is a political thing to do?
Yeah, no,
That
definitely
is political.
Yeah, but then it's also like, I don't know if if I've drank the Matty Healy Kool-Aid, but I kind of actually read that as irony,
yeah.
given how much shit he's gotten previously for taking a stand about things.
Yeah.
You know, like I just, because he's like called it like Youngblood. Because Youngblood is just kind of like, we're angry, and doesn't really do anything. He doesn't like channel his energy into anything actually political. It's sort of like an image thing. And Matt Healy's called him out for that, and has done like stunts for gay rights and whatever. So I kind of read it as irony, to be honest. But I think I've just drunk the Kool-Aid.
The whole thing, like their whole thing now is dripping in irony.
Yeah.
It like their performances are so meta that like he's there was one bit where he was like I'm not being ironic. I just want to be sincere. I want to be like really, really sincere right now. And if everyone could just listen to me for a second. And then he's like, we are the best fucking band in the world. And I am a poet. And I am the best writer of my generation. And then they played Chocolate.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, but do you know that whole thing is a Taylor Swift hit?
It's Taylor Swift hit. What do you mean?
Thank you for asking. So,
Oh,
Torture Poets Department
yeah.
is her most recent album.
Right.
A lot of it's about Matthew Healy.
Got
He's
you.
the best poet of all time. Going into Chocolate, she's got this song where she says, you smoked and ate several bars of chocolate. You smoked and then you played Chocolate, the song. So the whole thing is
got you. I wasn't aware of that, even that level of meta-discourse.
yeah.
Yeah, I just...
And that is actually on the title song, Tortured Poets Department.
Gosh.
Very good.
Yeah.
No, don't move on. Wait.
Sorry.
You'd be raging if you were Gabriette
Joking.
and Matty Healy was engaging this sort of like meta discourse with his ex-girlfriend. You'd be absolutely furious.
Would you?
Yeah, if your ex-boyfriend, excuse me, if your fiance's headlining Glastonbury and making allusions about
Taking
his
shots at his
ex-girlfriend,
ex, yeah. Yeah, that probably would bother.
Charlie don't like her either, does she?
I don't know them personally.
Sympathy is a Knife is about Taylor Swift, isn't it?
I've got no idea.
You are plugged in, man.
Yeah, we met Ava and our good friend Connor like to play back to back to back Taylor Swift albums in the office
No, so what
to loud derision
Okay,
that they ignore.
no. So can I just explain what we're actually doing there? So
It's praxis.
okay, so what we're doing is
Funding
we're
a private jet.
comparing. We're going top to bottom of the album, so we can make a decision, an informed decision over which was the best song of the album.
So what I said,
Yeah, but what's wrong with that?
because no one in the office likes it.
Yeah, okay, but listen, the alternative is I'm at my sweet spot
Mhm.
in the office is when like Ollie, not to gas you up, but when you're on it, I'm very happy when you're on it.
Thank you.
I'm also very happy when friend of the podcast Tom Usher is on it. Nicole on sales, I actually think she does.
To drop some bangers.
She does.
Yeah, she does big
She's
time.
got quite like a Sade sort of playlist, and I enjoy that. You know, but other than that, I'm listening to Messy by Lola Young over and over and over. And now Jess Glynn, what is it?
Hold my hand.
Yeah. And I just sit there being like, I'm going to pull my hair out in a minute.
Did you see Lola Young brought out an inflatable sex doll with her head on
What?
top of it? She has a song. She has a song. The lyrics are like, "I'm fucking myself, but not like that." Basically, being like, now instead of like self-sabotage, I'm just wanking. I think is the subtext
Cool.
of the song. And so she had this inflatable. Well, there was like a 20-meter long one on the back of a lorry that she drove to Glastonbury, but presumably they couldn't fit on the John Peel stage, which I think is where she was playing. But no, they don't call it that
Woodsies.
anymore.
Her stage was too small for what they
So she
brought.
just had a regular sex doll that she'd put like a porcelain head on that was made up to look like her. And then she was like dancing with it during the song.
That's bizarre. Do you think the Gruffalo lady helped her with
Well-
lyrics?
Okay, wait. So
I forgot about that.
so do you know when
Is Gracie Abrams, J.J. Abrams'
Yes.
daughter?
yeah,
Really?
she
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the Nepo baby
Yeah,
of
she
all
is.
Nepo
Do they
babies.
spell it
It's
differently?
actually
No.
ridiculous. Did you hear her as well? She was like, well, how would my dad in film help me in music? And it was like, piss off. Like, honestly, just piss off. Look, okay, so Lola Young had like, she's actually not funny, but she had a really bad time at Capital Summertime Ball.
Oh,
Where
I saw that.
her headphones cut out, right? And that bit's not fun. Not her headphones, her
Earpiece.
earpiece cut out. And that bit's not funny, but she's having like this full-on meltdown on stage because she can't hear and she's scared because it's like the biggest. They've now changed it because there was public outcry. This was the thumbnail that Capital did.
Oh my goodness.
Holy shit.
Show that to the camera.
That's
Can they see
brutal.
that? How outrageous
so
is
mean.
that? And we were like,
Yeah,
Look, you know,
that's not
as a
kind.
fellow click merchant, I understand the rationale for doing that.
Yes.
As a fellow human being, tough.
Professional, personal views of that are quite different.
Yes, indeed. Should we have a quick chat about sort of rhetoric and discussion, or are we done talking Glasto? Look, I just think it's like I actually think it's part of the BBC's editor.
decision's been made then, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, my final. This is my final thought, and if you guys have anything else that you want to add, obviously, please feel free. I feel like the editorial justification for broadcasting Glastonbury in the like full scope way that the BBC does, because the level of coverage they do is like extraordinary. It's like across BBC One, Radio 2 carry some of it, Radio 6 Music carry tons of it. On iPlayer, you can watch most of the stages start to end. There's an entire channel where they're like pulling out highlights from different stages. Interviews with the artist. Like, I think it's really, really good, and it's one of the brilliant things about public service broadcasting. And it's a reminder to like Westminster that there are other subcultures and things that happen in this country and levels of fandom and celebrity and sort of influence that extend far beyond the decrepit and collapsing corridors of the Houses of Parliament. And the fact that once a year, a small city pops up in the West Country for a weekend, like more than 200,000 people, and then dissipates, is already just an extraordinary and interesting cultural phenomenon that I think is worthy of exploration. And then beyond that, when you get into like the history of the festival, the fact that I could probably lay claim to being, if not certainly one of the best and biggest festivals in the world, music festivals in the world. And part of the reason for covering it is because it reminds you that there is this whole other world out there of people of different politics, different ideas, different musical influences. Like that's the very essence and nature of the thing. And so I think the editorial justification for covering it is people like Bob Vylan saying things like that, because the statements don't like that don't get played otherwise, do they? And I think really, it's actually part to my mind, it's part of the editorial justification for covering the festival in the way that it does.
There's also balance offered in the appearance of Rod Stewart, who's now come out backing Nigel Farage.
Oh yeah, he said give him a chance.
Yeah, he did.
Did you see what Kneecap said about him? They were like, you're older than the state of Israel.
Holy shit.
Do you know what is really funny about them? Is that they just keep going.
Kneecap.
Like,
Yeah.
Like,
Don't back down, double
can you
down.
imagine the lawyer?
Yeah,
Guys!
for the love of God. I think he was waiting in the wings for one of their recent gigs. I think Sean said.
Yeah.
He said you could see the lawyer stood off to the side of the stage.
Laptop on, sweating.
Well, I think probably just like
Can you I mean, they had just been charged with a terror offence. Would you not want a lawyer
should
there?
probably bring the lawyer along.
You know, people talk about, or kind of, the Westminster class talk about Glastonbury the same way they talk about universities. In the same way, like, most people go to Glastonbury to get absolutely fucked up and have a good time, and that's why people go to universities. And people talk about it
There's like a hotbed of political extremes.
Yeah, being like, because they like.
Okay, it is a political event.
No, but like, the vast majority of people go to Glastonbury and don't go to like
The left field.
The left field.
Yeah,
They
of
go.
course.
They didn't go and see Jeremy Corbyn that time. They aren't going to listen to Bob Vylan preach about whoever because they're getting
They didn't
off
like
their
that
nut.
Jeremy Corbyn chant either, did they?
No, they didn't. But they're getting off their nut.
Maybe you guys just don't like Glastonbury. You don't have to report on it. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah,
You
but see-
don't have to report on it.
It's the same thing about universities when they're like, "Can you believe they're not like the Oxford Union president says this?" It's like, that's not news. That's a club.
Yeah.
It's a university club.
Yeah.
You're not reporting on the Drama Society at Winchester or wherever. Like,
They love it, don't they? When they always go after, they'll be like, "Oh, some students trying to launch a campaign about some slave that's got a statue at Cambridge," and it's like, "Well, yeah, no shit. Water's wet. Like, what now?"
they have nothing to do all day. They have no obligations. They need something to fill their time.
And maybe you shouldn't have a statue of a slave owner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just positing it.
Just an idea. Should we do a little bit of witch chat?
Yeah.
Ed,
Yes.
you've been hanging out with witches.
I did. I went to the Witch Festival in Milton Keynes.
Is that the home of paganism? Is it? Oh, are they pagans?
So, paganism, umbrella term.
I'm so glad you asked, buddy.
Do they like the roundabouts though, do you think?
Yeah, because that's their stone circle is the roundabouts.
Ah.
So paganism is an umbrella term for like a variety of religions. So sort of like
Are there a ton of roundabouts in Milton Keynes?
people keep saying that. I don't know about that.
I
to be
thought it
fair.
was designed on a grid system.
Yeah, but with roundabouts.
Oh, okay. Transatlantic.
ley line.
Yeah.
Bringing the benefits of American organisation with the insanity of the British road system.
It is
Absolutely.
really the posh English boy you meet that says party like party. That is
Oh,
what Milton Keynes
That's
is.
Milton Keynes.
Really? Oh, I just met the witches.
That's so funny.
So paganism, umbrella term for lots of different religions, and they can be as formal or as informal or as structured as you sort of want. Like you could declare yourself a pagan and go and worship the Norse gods by yourself, or you can be part of a more regimented thing. And being a witch or like Wicca is sort of one of those branches, and there are about 13,000 practicing witches in the UK. So it could be anything from you say you're a witch and you go and practice it by yourself, or you're part of like a group or a coven who like you all kind of worship together.
So what does practicing look like?
It can be lots of things. It can be a lot of it's like meditative, a lot of it's like communing sort of with nature. I met a woman who ran a spell workshop, and when she said, I was like, "What is a spell?" And she said,
Have you heard of Zach Polanski?
Zach was there. The woman had huge knockers. And it's sort of about like positive manifestation. Basically, that's what a spell is, and you do it with like burning sage and all this other stuff as well. What was interesting was just like in the olden days when witches didn't exist, but there were Christians there keeping an eye on things just in case they all sort of.
Observing the witches.
There was 4 people we saw.
And it was nice to see you in Milton Keynes that day.
I'm part of the delegation sent by Papal.
Yeah.
They were wearing like Jesus saves, the rapture is coming sort of
Do you ever
t-shirts.
just wonder, like, these guys, like, how do you even find out about this event?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, they've got to keep their ear close to the ground in case the witches are back. But so we spoke to the organizer of the
Doesn't
festival.
the Lord just tell them?
Yeah, get the guest
Be like
divine in
Jethro,
inspiration.
Milton Keynes this weekend.
Well, only Papao is the year of the Lord.
Right, let's not get into the into which religion is right. These people weren't Catholics though, so
They sound evangelical.
yeah.
Sound second coming.
Oh, your lot then, yeah?
I'm not evangelical.
Well,
God.
they
I'm
would
not.
say that, wouldn't they?
Well,
Sound pretty evangelical in your denials.
I don't think that is true. I think evangelical is that you're very much, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. You can be saved.
And you are...
What am I? Broadly, vaguely christened at home?
Okay.
Christened at home?
Yeah. It's not really christened at all, probably.
Christened at home?
Yeah.
In your house?
Under the sink.
You're joking.
I'm not joking, but it was christened at home.
I don't actually know if it was under the sink. I just made that up.
It wasn't under the sink.
Dunk
I
you in
don't
the
think.
toilet? What do you mean?
I was christened at home.
Presumably he brings holy water.
I don't really know how they did it, to be fair. I think they sort of did it so vaguely.
That is really Protestant. Do you know what? It's like, you lot, I mean, not famous for your faff and your frills, but that is real basic, isn't it? Like, that is like Asda price. Like, we're not even going to like get dressed up for this. Do you know what I
I
mean?
wore a gown. Sorry, I don't know why I'm defending my christening. Anyway, back to the festival. But the previous year, there had been a group prayer organised by some churches in Milton Keynes to kind of defend Milton Keynes from witchcraft. And they like invaded the festival and like disrupted like tarot cards readings and stuff. And it's like nowhere near as
Like Jesus flipping like the tables of the moneylenders.
yeah,
at the temple,
literally that. It was nowhere near as sinister as they maybe believed.
So what was one of your standout moments or favourite interactions?
There was plenty. I think there was a few standout moments. I met some people who consider themselves mediums.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked one woman, actually, have that clip.
Oh, clip.
A clip.
A clip.
Editing for Ben.
Wow.
Clip time.
I've got abilities. I have been gifted since I was 5 years old. So I've been very linked to nature and things like that. So for me, it's been a very easy path for me to come into. But a lot of people say that I'm a medium.
Right.
But I like to just call myself a natural spiritualist. Is somebody that connects, talks to spirits. I talk to the fae. I talk to dragon. I talk to a lot of different energies.
Have you ever communed with anyone famous from beyond the grave?
No.
Can you seek that out?
I think you can, but as I say to everyone, I think that you've got to be a pretty special person for like a famous person to come by. We're everyday average people. Why would Elvis Presley or somebody come and connect with us? But then again, we're fans, so it could be.
Is that who you would like to commune with?
Yeah, Elvis Presley, and I would like to get back in. I would love to get in contact with Michael Jackson. I'm a massive fan of him.
Mm-hmm. What would you ask Michael Jackson?
I'd say like, how would he do things differently? How would he like have maintained his place to keep that fairy tales sort of side going? Mm-hmm. He was a great loss to the world as well. So
I'm sure lots of people have lots of questions for him.
I interviewed Maro Itoje a couple of weeks ago, and when I asked him who his dream dinner party guest would be, he said Michael Jackson.
Did he?
He did.
And we're letting that man captain the line.
How old would he have been there at that dinner?
Young enough.
That's a great point, actually. If you're resurrecting someone to sit at your...
Oh, you're getting like
You're
Ben
gonna-
singing Michael Jackson.
like,
Jackson 5 era.
if you're resurrecting someone, are you getting them like peak artistic performance? Are you getting them 20 years in the ground? Are they a bit decayed? Because he said to entertain everyone. So,
A, B, C,
Yeah.
easy
Oh, you think
one.
like mid Michael
That's the
Jackson.
only safe one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to go before accusations, haven't you?
Yeah. I think you've got to go Jackson 5.
Anyway, I think because he then wanted to walk it back, because in his head he was like, oh, that could be a bit controversial. He was like, oh, no, actually, maybe Boys to Men.
Keeping on theme.
Why Michael Jackson?
Why Michael Jackson? She just seemed to want to ask him for advice about what he would do in this situation.
I don't get why people revere him so much.
It is a...
He was pretty good though, wasn't he?
It was good.
He had
but
some good
what
songs.
about all the other
Come
stuff?
on.
He had some good hits.
What about all the other stuff? I also met a man who runs a ghost hunting TV channel
Oh, no.
that he started because he thought YouTube was too oversaturated, and so he runs it's called Ghost Planet Network, and it's available on Roku. Which I thought was an interesting kind of strategy in this kind of new media age.
You know who used to be on Most Haunted is the now Reform chairman.
Yes, he is. David Bowie told that story about like battering Derek Ankara or something, or
Derek Acora.
Akora, excuse me, Ankara.
We did sponsored content with him once.
David Bowie.
No, Acora.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Ireland.
I don't really know who he is.
He's I think he's like the Irish version.
Of David Bull.
He presented shows like that, and he did. We did a thing where he's like trying to lift the Mayo curse. It's quite funny.
That is funny.
Yeah.
I think what I wanted to do when I met the witches, kind of see what brought them together, because they're all sort of like, it's interesting, isn't it? Like sort of we talk about the age of loneliness, and there's people doing things like this which people consider eccentric,
Yeah.
whatever, and they're all coming together to kind of celebrate. And it was sort of like there was a real contrast between, it was in the grounds of a sport and social club in Milton Keynes, and so like the members of that club were there just having a pint in the garden, and then people like covens were doing dances just meters away. So I think it was a good bit of content.
And so what does bring them together?
I think they're looking for sort of shared experiences and to learn from each other about their practices. About one woman said, one organizer, Victoria, said, we're just women who like meditating and burning sage. And so it's like seeking shared interests with each other, just sort of with like a fancier exterior.
I enjoy a meditation every now and again. Can't say I've ever burnt sage, so I don't know whether that's a restorative thing.
There was two guys there, like real like geezers, and they looked quite out of place because a lot of the vendors were like selling spell books or doing tarot or whatever.
Well, you can't be a geezer who enjoys a spell book.
Well, that's why I was curious. I said,
Were they wizards?
Are you guys witches? And they were like, no. And they were selling plants. They're like, we just sensed a business opportunity.
That's good.
Just two guys in like cargo shorts and polos.
Well, when it's the bitch convention, then I'll see you there.
What is the male equivalent of a witch or wizard?
Why are you asking me?
I think it's a warlock.
Closing the warlock.
I think
Sorry, forgive me.
But then also, I think it's sort of a gender neutral term at this point.
Where can people watch it?
You can watch that on joe.co.uk YouTube channel, and there's some clips on the joe.co.uk Instagram as well. If you fancy a flavour,
Get yourselves there. Fantastic to spend another day excusing the distasteful with both of you.
What won't we apologise for it?
Ted Cruz tweeted about it.
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah. Ted Cruz tweeted about it. He said these people are the base of the Democratic Party.
What?
This is the base of the Democrat Party.
He did clarify. Someone replied to him and was like, "This is in England."
That's so funny.
And then he had to do like, "No, I'm saying that the loony left that are at this festival in England are also the same loony left that the base of the
Lots of
Democratic."
comments saying this is in England. True, these are the loony British anti-Israel left. They are the very same anti-Semitic zealots that the American anti-Israel left, to whom the Democrat Party is utterly beholden. I don't want to be rude, but I just, do we not think?
I bet that made Lucy Brown's day when Ted Cruz quote tweeted her.
Yes. Yep. Who is Lucy Brown?
Oh, a lot of people were trying to work that out over the weekend as well.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
fair.
Oh, in like a Charlotte Gill trying to figure out who Ed Campbell is type way.
Charlotte Gill's nearly on to us.
Is she?
Yeah.
She doesn't. She hasn't worked out who my dad is yet.
No.
Well,
Which is
just you wait.
I don't know. That is surface level.
Yeah,
Like.
no. Google search would tell you that.
Uh-huh.
She's going after the humanists at the moment. That's making me
Is
laugh
she?
a lot.
What?
Yeah.
I do love it when she's like, Global fund the newsagents, and Global also have advertising boards. Advertising the newsagents.
Yeah. But she never ever points out like all of the like she'll never point to like a right wing presenter on LBC and say they also run these boards.
Yeah. Nick Ferrari's never mentioned.
Basically, what I want from her, I want her to be a better journalist.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think one of her biggest revelations was something I actually told her. I commented underneath being like, you do realise this is owned by da-da-da. Do you remember when she was going after us being like, Politics Joe, owned by Joe? I'm going to smash my head into a wall, Charlotte. Like, I can't believe you've told everyone that.
Yep.
Front organisation. Yeah.
It's in the bio, babe. It's in the bio.
Look, a pleasure to podcast with both of you. Thank you as always for your time, your conversation, your insight, your humour.
Make sure to listen to us before we're prescribed.
Yes, that'll be coming down the track. Shall I do an ad read now, or shall we say goodbye and then I'll do the ad read?
Say goodbye and then do that.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
July 4th is Politics Joe's Independence Day. From this Friday, the only place you will be able to watch full episodes of the Politics Joe podcast is on Patreon. If you like our journalism and want us to carry on making it, consider supporting us for £2 a week, or pay annually and save 20%. And crucially, do it on desktop because Apple apply a 30% fee and they take all of it for themselves. Head to our Patreon where you'll get first dibs on live event tickets, and we're going to have an announcement about the first one of those very soon, access to the PoliticsJOE group chat, Q&As, and exclusive content. You can still listen to whole episodes for free on audio platforms, and we're still going to publish clips to YouTube, but the only place to watch the entire episodes in full will be on Patreon from July 4th. That's this Friday. Go to patreon.com/PoliticsJOE, where exclusively for you, code POD gets 90% off your first month. That's code POD, P-O-D, for 90% off your first month at patreon.com/PoliticsJOE.